is not ripping the tire. They're not grinding up. The Pirelli have changed and improved the tires as well. So it's not about degradation. The tires are not building apart. So that advantage of McLaren has been taken away too. We got 19 cars running in this race. Nico Hulkenberg sadly having to retire before the start. Jonathan, the team bus is on the pit wall for us. Jonathan, what was the issue? You know, it's the matter of that time, like a head-on team, because they just running a little bit better for a take. If Shigmatic too, I understand, and yeah, third son for the new front, division there. No, yeah, exciting. Anyway, was no, but it's show it's I understand. I think we can do. She had sign on fire up on the grid, Martin. So you probably saw a bit of activity around the car around the 7-minute mark. Yeah, but did what we could to public grid trash. These cars are incredibly complicated. Most of the new systems are very cheap. Should decide them. You say, actual should there be? Yeah, Nico's race. That should be and Gabriel Bortoleto running in the top 7. What's his race pace looking like, and are you happy with this? Sure, for having all the bike conversations in Japan, 92 tires. Japan is settling down. Up to see Lawson called the Prince over in Spencer Hugh on the cars. Start Civil City. She's going to be another afternoon. Service, but hopefully a productive one. Thanks ever so much. Jonathan Fedley, rookie drivers, being headed by Gabriel Bortoleto on the track currently. And we mentioned Liam Wilson there. He did pit to get rid of those soft tyres. They lasted precisely 10 laps. And that was that for the soft tyre. So that will give you an indication as to whether anyone's going to use the soft tyres a little bit later on. I think they only use those if there's a native safety car, won't they? Because they want some grip. On the restart, sub-media bit hard, compound. But quite should have been a step soft there. Should reach a 4 to 2 stop lap. Have been able to use that for next year. But Lewis Hamilton was saying that we got the C6 now, so let's use it. Pirelli as they celebrate 500 Grand Prix, which came in at Sandbourg last weekend. Maybe a big concern about the top speeds here at Monza, but these tyres are pretty durable. I'm sure the C6 will be as well. If looking at the Bortoleto 7/10 ahead of Alonso. Alonso's in his Bortoleto's management team. They're best friends. I joked on the grid with what I was walking down to go to the grid, and 2 crazy blips came along on scooters trying to run each other into the Ferrari Memento. It was Bortoleto and Alonso laughing around, and there's the dynamic. You put your manager, you've got the right, you probably hero worship him all through your childhood. You've got your manager behind you, and that's the dynamics of that. So it's fabulous. Great relationship there. Bortoleto's relationship with Verstappen as well. Where they race against each other. They had a similar, I think they were also playing Call of Duty earlier this week together offline too. There's a few places between them on the track and around about 18.5 seconds currently. Let's see how that pans out for the rest of the race. Turn down to you. Was Bortoleto also saying anything else from doing a choo-choo? Because he is very much heading the DRS train. And just looking into the Mercedes garage, really thinking about whether they can do anything with Kimi Antonelli. But a bad start, dropped here places. Now P10 weak, Tsunoda as well, and Fernando Alonso to that point, and them and Sainz and Albon behind the Bortoleto DRS train. And I think Mercedes are going to think maybe of an early stop for Antonelli, see what they can do about that. Yeah? Quite impressed as well as to how George Russell's still managing to run as opposed to Charles Leclerc. I mean, he's dropping back a little bit, but he's been behind that Ferrari now for many, many laps. So the temperatures and how the tyres, he just moves to one side to get a bit of cooling around, getting through that Mercedes. The temperatures will soon start to get through the roof. Just imagine Tenet, like this, would be up the RNS train in the paddock. He'd love, and yeah, if you're like an old inspector, you know that they used to punch your tickets of the whole there. They said it'll peak half as well, or I see that myself. Martin, look easy. Out in front, Martin. Who we can't see at the moment is Max Verstappen, which is a shame, really, because he is absolutely dominating this race and controlling it well. And the cap now under 4 seconds to Lando Norris. Pretty consistently 3 to 4 tenths faster than Norris. Norris just done the fastest millisecond of the entire Grand Prix. Of course, they're starting now to use up a little bit of their fuel. And with this known against me, to impress ourselves with degradation, while the tyres often using up fuel, manage to go faster than the time you use as your tires go on. So that's always been the case here in Monza. If I remember back to the days where sometimes we do 50, 60 laps, up then we're approaching 50 laps. Sometimes pitting on the last lap, really, isn't it? Go as far as you could on one set of tires because you don't really hurt them in the straights. Lisa's good, nice and clean. Stay in contention. How tires to come between laps 25 and 30 maybe, but see if anyone does pull the pit and start to pit from further behind. The trouble with trying to make an undercut work, hitting ahead of the driver in front and hoping on fresh tyres, you've got the pace to get past them when they finally make the pit stop. Because when you go from the medium onto the hard tyre here, the hard tyre takes a little bit longer to warm up, and you can't just go push straight away. Ladiner is saying, my front left is the limiting factor for going faster. It's a clockwise circuit, and most of the key corners are right and this. So that is why your front left takes a little bit of stress. What I think to me very interesting is when they go on to the hard compound tyres, just over half distance, when we're around half distance, there's the weather that leaves the dynamics of this Grand Prix. I know it changes who's got the advantage. That which you often can do. Verstappen sets the new fastest lap of this race. And Norris crosses the line, 4.3 seconds behind him. George Russell has now just detached himself from that magic 1 second. So he's not in DRS range of Charles Leclerc. And the one that then helps Lewis Hamilton a little bit. Lap previous to this, lap 15, he was 3/10 quicker than Russell. Now he's a 10th quicker than Russell. Does that help Lewis Hamilton have one just to close that gap a little bit faster? That Russell's not getting the DRS benefit behind Charles Leclerc. We'll see. During the Sky Race Control, the outfield of the just listening into some of the radio here, Verstappen is completely controlled all the feedback he's getting in. The car's good, pace is good, and tires are good. So and he's checked out 4.5 seconds to the schedule 2033. This will be what Russell can do. So we think that the undercut here is not as powerful as in Holland noted in Hungary before that. It needs to be within about a second. But there's a gap as Leclerc's gone 11th and traveling at the second interval. There's a gap. It's about 25 seconds of pit stop. There's a small gap right at the back of the pit between Olsen and Jasny, but Russell can't start into. But then he can get called a depot. The problem for any of the top runners is that the field is still quite tightly bunched, and you can't get too early or you get stuck in traffic. And you don't want to get stuck passing behind the likes of Alex Albon, for instance, on the hard side, leading a gaggle of cars on the hard side behind him, who are going to go that little bit longer. Absolutely. So they're watching that a long way behind. A message from Christian Horner actually saying it's our worst race last year with the wrong downforce level. And that the team have worked on that pitch. They done a great job. Then late again, how did around 38 seconds, I think Max Verstappen finished behind the race leader and raced with a Charles Leclerc is to the inside. Here it is Kimi Antonelli. Come on, Yuji Tsunoda. But he's gone both ways back for the fall that he lost to the stopper. Vito Oliveira from the man from Bologna. He moves up into 9th. It looks like Carlos Sainz has been down running through the runoff here without going around the necessary bollard and following the yellow lines. He's been reported for failing to follow race director's instructions on the run-up zone. Yeah, there's a specific line you have to take, and even if you can't get to the white of the yellow line at the start of that particular border, they still need to come on later into the run-up area. Let's see what happens. Lock up there. And he's going to come on before the yellow light said, yeah, the right-hand side of your street. Yeah, it takes some defending. Loss. Just a lot of defending, unfortunately. So, but there's a reason for it. It's only the car's feet back here, you know, control weight at a controlled angle. They're playing a risky game because that can damage the underneath of the car. It brings gravel onto the track. Yeah, the gravel can damage the aero parts underneath. It can dip the those as well. That's the whole car's means to go through. Molly Fairman's coming into the pits, seeing try the undercut from 11th. It was mentioned to us by Ferrari actually. Just watch out for the gravel. If enough of it comes onto the circuit, that might necessitate a virtual safety car or a safety car for the marshals to come and sweep it. So Babbitt comes into the pits and he ensures I would imagine, get out ahead of Liam Lawson. And they decided down at Haas that that's the gap that they're trying to put him into, but it's not quite happened. Lawson's actually gone through. You do lose a lot of time here, 25 seconds in your pit stop because of the speeds that the cars are doing down the straight while you're stuck and controlled at 80 kilometers an hour. No, Max just wanting it in this. Yeah. This is solid backs. He building the advantage. Without extra change to keep keeping out that advantage. Distance. Summers, I think, is the understatement from GP. Javier Labias. He'll have to play things out. The best of times. This is a masterclass from Max currently. But what could change is they go to the high compound cars and also a safety car. And they get that or him from safety cars and also this kind of lead is because they're going to make a pit stop at Red Bull, and it might be a last-minute call. This for Yuki Tsunoda, and they drop the tyres. They were trying to get him out of the racks. No, I'm done. They'll be ready for him when he comes in. So Behrman's pit stop has now triggered Yuki Tsunoda's as well. And Monza getting points up to Gabriel Bortoleto and locking up in the process. Yeah, and an avalanche of Pirellis now all of a sudden. But I was saying our front, the Verstappen with that kind of with a 5.6 second lead, they can wait. They can afford to come in the following lap of Norris and Piastri. It buys them time and earn a comfort zone. That's what, as we've seen doing so many times, haven't we, over the last few years. So this is why Red Bull bring Yuki Tsunoda in, and why they responded straight away, and why the undercut. It can work here, but not on this case, and not on this occasion. Tsunoda comes out from his pit stop, still ahead of Behrman in the house, but Behrman with his tyres slightly warmed up. Tsunoda is going to challenge this one and go into the chicane, and by the time under braking to get into the chicane, only Behrman has made his way past Yuki Tsunoda. Very neat little move indeed for that man who won the Monza feature race in 2023. In the sprint race there this time last year. Yeah, my stand, I mean. Oh, you could hear Nick one of you do that, right on you. Crunching down the serrage. Oh, you know, you can see the sparks. It makes such a mess of his aerodynamic. Bortoleto's pitted and Alonso's pitted too. Just keep an eye on that problem through this, because that white is something of a problem if anyone else goes off, and we've had quite a few going on this weekend. Like, meat pit stop for Aston Martin with 3.2 seconds. That's a bit short, and it does look a bit sad. And as they jump out to be side by side, let's have a look at the cars as they emerge into the sunshine, and Alonso has got ahead at the pit stop of Gabriel Bortoleto. And it was a better stop from the Aston Martin crew, as here comes the Racing Bulls, just a jump on Bortoleto's misery, keeping in between this particular ones. So the Giants get out of the climb pit at a maximum of 70 degrees C, maybe to be around 100. That's why you take a little bit of time these days to repeat corners to bring them up to where you need them, which is why we saw Behrman's Tsunoda as well. Yeah, now Lawson pitted 11 laps ago to put his car tyres on. He's now been himself right at the think of what was a vacuum for over 7th and 8th. So it's in the pit lane we go, and really aggressively attacking that, the wise old head. Took 10-15 meters out of him, didn't he? By being less cautious. Well, he didn't break the speed there, didn't make that. So that put him in plane, and then made the difference. Honestly, it made the difference that they had to hold Bortoleto there. So Bortoleto might have slammed Alonso into the Ferrari motor on a scooter, but he's just had a bit of payback. Surely has. And this is Max Verstappen, and to remind you, he is our race leader. Let the gravels go off the racing line. That's good. And that's what we want to see there. Verstappen nearly 6 seconds clear of Lando Norris. What a dream feeling this must be for Max Verstappen, who of course hasn't stood on top of the podium this season since Imola. That's with there, of course, in Japan, in Suzuka, where he won from pole. As you were looking at Daniel Tintroff there, Max is really wringing the neck of that Red Bull through the Ascarish kid. He is pushing like crazy. Ted, what can you tell us? I want to give some credit to the Aston Martin mechanics, as well as that Martin and Crofty. They did their bit. They were giving it a go by following Bortoleto in. They knew that it was a fight between the mechanics, And the Aston Martin, it wasn't a 2-second stop, wasn't a 10.9. It was actually more like a mid-2 to high 2-second. But they did it, and lots of fist pumping. And congratulations amongst them. They made it happen. As much as we'd look Sauber mechanics are into delayed data, that's getting out of that. Good pots. Padded so that's it. Norsig behind it on the in behind Selby Behrman. This race currently is Yuki. So that really is the last of the 19 runners still going. Hard to get in. Yeah, just some add-on for the Norsig probably is the media that. Obviously, he's the only guy that started on the soft tyre. So brought to let all the Deki game. That is not a net decision with the old finish. They're mid-stops. There's a group of cars to look at. They're the first of the cars pitted. And Alonso and Bortoleto should cycle back into the point. So, Paulie Behrman, he needs to try and get past Velocity. His tyres are 9 laps pressure. Thanks ever so much of the grid. Have Sky Race Control. We're on lap 23 of 53 here. That's Monza. We have get very close to the walls and out the braking on that onto the chicane. Or flexible offshore. To try and get past. I mentioned on me balance that credentials there to Monza. Three walls and those start to out this crackings of Poland have 3. It's 20 out of 20 and 2, and he got his first F3 sprint podium here in 2019 as well. But it's not through. So Lesbo Cordes, they count the team right handers this second as the Turkey exit. It must be set. Right, happy on Portoleto on board with it. Down towards that first chicane. You walk up, capturing the racing ball. Let's just beat his attention there a touch. Just hit wheels, so to speak, get their foot flat to the floor. Not spinning quite so much Portoleto. Good momentum from him. And he manages to get past the racing balls. Yeah, his front wing must have been perilously close to as that Antonelli takes to the runoff area after a lockup. As soon as your wheels stop rotating, you've half the grip. You cannot slow down, and you're damned if you do brake harder. If you didn't brake, you just not really cool. The match to Stafford, and there's to put in a no good sake, to retake the lead of this Italian Grand Prix. Really, that's just a bustle and then confuzzles only few laps, but it's simple down now. Out in front, 6.3 seconds the gap between Verstappen and Norris. But watching the gap between Russell and Hamilton continued to close down by 2/10 on the previous lap, another 2/10 on this lap. He was taking his time to get a bit closer to George Russell, but he's got that gap down to about 2.7 seconds in the last few laps. Plus a go on board to Alex Albon, running a bit top 5 on the hard pump outside. The Argus teammate Carlos Sainz, who was under investigation, but noted, I should say, done for domestic play. Sure, from this up this. Alright, take first marking mid party. Here guys, it don't like me increase. So, that instruction all about staying calm, keep the racing line. So not this one, the end of Fernando Alonso. It's a right rear puncture and a bit. It does look to be a bit low down on that right rear. And meanwhile, it comes Alex Albon, as I say, on the hard tyre compared to signs of a medium tyre. I wonder if this is Alex Albon being instructed by the team that they're going to swap places here. Carlos Sainz maybe not overly happy about it. Yeah, Sainz being told, do not defend. Yeah, what was that? Turn 4, keep to the racing line. Do not defend against Albon is what they were telling him. Which is pretty much the same thing as you're saying, Crofty. Thank you. That does look like a bunch, doesn't it? For Fernando, they just look at the balance of the car as he comes in. Oh, suspended failure, possibly. What isn't it going on now? Suspension failure. It's just unbelievable, right? It's so disappointing. Take Ram as he came into this weekend, not expected much, and he was having a really good race battle that he was winning with Gabriel Bortoleto. Yeah, it's the front right. The mechanics are pointing at it. Fernando's so disappointed. And wow, you can go from elation for winning that position to Bortoleto to complete the spare. Alonso can't wait to get out. Well, that's possibly, yeah, that's what definitely happening. But yeah, Alonso lifting the headrest out himself as he's just so annoyed he can't wait to get out of the car. Inch quite as nothing. 10, he was quite high up on the intrinsic curve of the Spirey. And the sharp building, the frequency, it just just broke the suspension. Scored in 6 of the last 7 Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso and Saudi Fernandez, that's his second retirement here of Monza with the Larve Monza in the last 5 years. Carlos Sainz is now under investigation for failing to follow what the race director said in his race notes. How you go off the track, the block come on at a certain point, and he didn't do that at the second chicane. So we'll see if there's a penalty coming Carlos Sainz's way. But his teammate has scammed past him and already pointed DRS. Sainz currently storing a couple of points. Ollie Behrman had a down in 16th, is there as driver of the championship, but Behrman has already fitted. Sainz has, and Ocon still going a 5-second penalty there as he hasn't served Jeff in 10. That's absolutely right. So he's got a penalty to serve. Sainz is under investigation. And Heavy's really investigating Max Verstappen, but to this race because he's so far out in front. And Lando Norris was delivering and a +50 if that's possible. I think so. We'll go, yes. Wow. So can you go 15 laps longer on your first hit, please? So let me explain why that's happening. Those are coming in and put brand new hard tyres on and not going particularly well. They're not sticking with a medium tire in a very, very long stint. From the information they can gather from those, the fact that I've fitted, that's why they're going to all extend and going to be used mediums. They seem a better time. Right, interesting. That can have a bearing on how quick this race is run. I don't know if you've got your stopwatches handy at home, and if you've had your stopwatches on from the start, but we passed half race distance in 36 credits. Why it's not sorry to edit traffic. That's crucial because we're on pace to break the records now for the fastest race in Formula One history. Michael Schumacher winning here in 2003. He did it in 1 hour 14 minutes, 19.838 seconds. Charles Leclerc last year was 21 seconds slower when he won that. If they keep up this pace, then we could, as George Russell pits, have the fastest ever Formula One Grand Prix in World Championship history. So we'll see what happens there. If George Russell turns in to make his pit stop, while tyres going high. Sure, that was a quickest stop they've seen from the same year, 2.9 seconds. So he lost about 7/10 of a second, but while he was stationary, and he's going to come out now behind the Racing Bulls, isn't he, of Isaac Hadjar running down at 11. So during chat, let's head to Sky Race Control. Thanks, Dottie. Just reflecting on that message there to Oscar Piastri. This morning, Andrea Stella made a comment that the soft tyre is holding up quite well and could be an option. Or at least what are your thoughts about continuing into it for the soft? Yeah, I mean, your best both continued for panel. Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. Probably, Andrea Stella told me this morning itself. Either reasonably tyre, and I think that's what it might do. Extend the median, and then with the sun gone, and actually more sun goes back where we do. So Hydro has concept. It's right in 2 cars once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and then ends up getting very scrappy as he loses on overall. But second race in a row, that they have lost its make contact with another car. I'd rather get admitting that's going to be looked at. Meanwhile, there's a written revolt from Carlos Sainz. For rejoining the track when he shouldn't have done. The Indy Sonoda's now never that place back. I assume that's Alan Fabay, the team principal down at Racing Bull, said earlier. I think about it. To get that back yourself before the stewards make us. Antonelli is now pitting for Mercedes. That's an interesting repreneur. So towards the end of the race, it might be worth just banzai through that. So run-ups and gained every second. That's the last of advantage, of course. Another repreneur for it. Right, is Kimi Antonelli coming out ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto? Yes, he is. That's why Mercedes had to pit maybe 1 lap longer, and then it would have been an awful lot tighter as he came back out again. And important for their race that Antonelli is ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto. So that's the undercut working really well there for the Mercedes. And the 4-second stop for Bortoleto without putting on the back, fair thing weaving from Antonelli to generate some temperature. Look at that, that's blistering. That's blistering on the right front of Max Verstappen. So that's a big problem. Grading's one thing, it is gripping it there, but that is blistering. And Pirelli will be nervous about that because you can, and so will Red Bull, is you can get, because it's sort of, it comes from the core of the tyre, you can have tyre issues with blistering. I'm talking about the integrity of the tyre now. So, black and white flag for track limits for Kimi Antonelli, who goes over the white lines one more time and will get a 5-second penalty. Max Verstappen's got blistering on his tyres. Lando Norris is 6 seconds back. Oscar Piastri 6 seconds back on here. But George Russell is now the fastest man on track. Or it is set of hard tyres. Karuna most control. If I'm just looking at the pace of George, just telling you, as I said, you fast Verstappen only 3 tenths quicker than what the McLarens have done. And then 4 tenths quicker than Verstappen. So, you know, and then they have got buffer. Despite the blistering, the performance still seems okay in those tyres for the leaders. It certainly does. On this lap, though, Lando Norris is already about 3 tenths faster than Max Verstappen. As I say that, it goes up was in the quickest final sector of a 27-1 and was just over a tenth faster than Lando Norris. But Norris on that lap, about just under 3 tenths quicker. Is that performance starting to statistic grade a little bit on Verstappen's reference? If it's the right front, wasn't it, Verstappen was missing, because that can drive around the fence. Not that he loads her in these purple when it gets jacked, and they ran 3 degrees of front camber as well. But it's surprising to see that of blistering of these days. In Gasly, color pit, sorry, the Gasly color pitter you saw 12th or 13th in the distance. They're going to move up a bit now, as are those behind, because Carlos Sainz has come in to get rid of his medium frontal tyre and to make a pit stop. And he got 6 points. Now he stops just a little bit while there is marks before he could get those new tyres on. 3 seconds to stop and back out into the race. Everything's incredibly hot when he comes in. The axles, tyres, the wheel now. But by this stage of the season, normally those pit stops are pretty crisp all the way down the pit lane. We've seen a few lumpy ones today. In defence of the Williams 3 there, I think Wallace has just got a fraction on his marks, where the team would ideally love it to stop. But when you do that, those mechanics are the trainers to put the wheel gun on almost before the car stops moving. Just have to reach up a little bit more, and it will spur a few tenths of a second of loss. That'll lose your time as well, looking up. Coming into the first chicane, Franco Colapinto. Unusual to let the outside turner going down into there. Yeah, Colapinto hasn't stopped yet. Neither is his teammate Pierre Gasly. And Gasly ahead of Colapinto, as you can see. 10 dabs here. It's a good old-fashioned standoff down here currently between Red Bull and McLaren. Nobody, neither one to stop first. McLaren starting to think, well, you, Max Verstappen, with your no downforce hurting your tyres, but you've been done for. And that is a bit of a sensible worry. Red Bull, they know that. They don't want to push it, but maybe they can't push it quite as hard on the tyres as McLaren. Right, just go back, Martin, to what now McKee said to you on the grid. What were his words about Max pushed us into an unusual setup direction? Those were his actual words. I wrote them down. And with that T-train rear wing, the tyres starting just to fade a bit. Max has been on the radio, so the tyres starting to die a little bit. But I'm just wondering whether McLaren is thinking, that's fine. With a bit no downforce, our tyres are just running. So that's explained why it's a young did something. It's not added into the known pit lane. That while you're in the pit lane, everybody's going down the pit straight at 200 miles an hour. I don't need so much time. That's what drives it to be one star to an extent. But also why you need a very big gap. If you did 25 second down to make a pit stop there, whereas traditionally it's 2021, isn't it? Just watch it, George Russell, while you were giving us that explanation, Martin. And Russell is pitted just 4 laps ago. Just going very nicely indeed as one of the fastest, if not the fastest driver on the track. But soon he is going to come up behind, well, not Isaac Hadger, because he's come into the pits, but the hard tyre runners of Stroll and Popol and Albon. Not quite just hold it up at Thompson. Ferrari, I think, are hoping that that's going to be the case, because then they might get a nice little gap to start thinking about a pit stop with Lewis Hamilton and with Charles Leclerc. We'll keep an eye on that. But Ferrari telling Charles Leclerc that these laps are good. Don't worry too much about George Russell. He's going to start getting held up in the next few laps. That's all being furiously calculated, of course, on the pit wall in the garage and back at the team. They used to have probably 20, 50 people working in strategy, philosophy. But are Ferrari going to pit Charles Leclerc right now? But the answer is yes, as they run out of into the sunshine, and Charles Leclerc makes the right-hand dance into his pit lane on game with the long what's easy. I thought I wonder going into the pit lane. All locked up as he went across the line. Not a nervy moment. You may find out what his speed was. Pit stop was good though. Very slick indeed.
Okay, stay clear of the white line on the exit.
Before he has to get going
again. Dangerous driving if you cross onto the track.
Comes out now. Ahead Sir Alex Albon, not quite, but for him, better that he comes out ahead of Esteban Ocon. Ocon hasn't pitted yet. He's not had 5-second time penalty to serve. That's a nice old gap to bring him back out. And he can ease his tyres in nice and gently and carry on his way. So as George Russell was putting pressure on Charles Leclerc before the round of pit stops and before he had to drop back a bit, there's now a big battle between the Ferrari and the Mercedes. Yeah, because Russell's tucked up, isn't he? And behind Stroll and Ocon, and it's cost him dearly in terms of track position. With his pit stop, so that is his first. Doesn't surprise me that he came in now after that block up we saw a couple of laps ago. There's George Russell behind Lance Stroll, and with Mercedes expecting Ferrari to cover him off, so they just tried to do something a little bit different with George. We his overtaking and straight line speed wasn't in their favour. Oh, this is not going to be in their favour either. He's already having some new to the left-hand side to get out of the turbulent air of the Aston Martin. And we knew that Mercedes is probably carrying a little bit more drag, that most of his tyres are not fresh. If Stroll's not pincered yet, but George desperately needs to clear these two cars quickly. But he certainly does. And see that Stroll's rear tyre there. And we want one and fancy, we will laps on that. Continue up the front of third, where it seems to come. With George Russell trying to get past Lance Stroll with DRS. Not as easy as it might have been anticipated when he was right up behind the Aston Martin coming out of the parabolic. Already just got that done. And if Ferrari were concerned about, again, any kind of durability with the tyre, but we'll find out after the race. They said they didn't want to tell them to hundreds of millions of people during the race. So quiet is the lockup. I hope for his sake and for every single one of the Tifosi here, warring Charles Leclerc on, that he was not over 80 kilometers an hour when he passed that line. No indication, as yes, that anything was wrong. Way goes the Ferrari, which is upset a bit eerie. This sled emerged green line. Wheels spin. Few less frames per second. Or 2 million frames per second. Right. Russell's got another overtake to do. This one on Esteban Ocon, and the Appiera is flying on those hard compound tyres. So the concept of the tail enders who put the name was struggling a bit. They haven't got the same level of downforce perhaps, but a new fastest lap of the Grand Prix from Charles Leclerc. Can he then off down the road and get any minute and fan? Take up George Russell. The pass seems a little easier for him, but he's up to 7th place as he gets the overtake mate before the first chicane. The player's pace, I'm sure, will attract attention to the McLaren pit board sitting. And I know what your thoughts on these entire year, right? Corner notice the opposite far ahead. Why not? Go aggressive because they're not going to win the race. As it stands currently, Red Bull seems to have them covered off. If you were Red Bull, would you take that out of the equation and go into the soft tyre yourself or what? Do you think you can keep them alive? But Orlando's saying there is one empty different and kind of it's going to be opposite way because at the moment we haven't got the pace to beat them in a straight fight. So let's try something else. There's some weird down in because still need to post trees in my turning years ago. I'm just so used to this and I'm concentrating seriously that they do that. So used to that being in a round. And a bit of trees down there. Pretty sad, get me no season ball. That's the movement. It's slightly offensive for the drivers who don't have to go like fading as much, but with you, it spoils the authentic kind of its rather DeLorean slow park on the outskirts of the lap here at Monza Formula. This side of the year, what a time of year it is to have a bunch of Formula 1. And the Carlos Sainz is getting on to Ollie Penalties, so would rip the bonds. And for his trouble, sounds the second decay, got a penalty. So he's handing out over take down here. Try to beam up the 13th, just a little bit. Seemed far back, bold at this occasion. The gap might have got about 5 seconds. That was well over 6 seconds. A few laps ago between Verstappen and Norris. And Verstappen is coming in to the pits. So what will the planet do? How will they react to whatever Red Bull do? For the time being, Norris continues on his way. Oscar Piastri, I think, is going to continue on his way. Verstappen over Chich, and he stops there, puts a hard top-out tyre on. So they decided they're not going to get the softs until the end of this race. We're going to go with the hards. It is a brand new set of hards that Max Verstappen had. That's why they're nice and shining. And jump out into the sunshine in the place ahead of Lewis Hamilton. You can see the Ferrari in the distance. For the second time this race, Lando Norris now leads. And Norris got 6.1 seconds advantage over his teammate Piastri. So they've got a comfort zone there as well if they want to try something a little bit different against Verstappen. So this is the decision now as Norris starts to on a bit of an Aston. Do they keep running and try softs at the end, or do they match what Red Bull have done? I guess if they match what Red Bull have done, they'll finish second and third. The bought Charles Leclerc just a touch. To be honest, the medium tyres that the McLarens are running, Charles Leclerc on his new hard tyre was only a tenth of, just under a tenth of a second faster on the previous lap. He's not making the massive inroads, shall we say, into their advantage. Ted, let's head down to you. I was watching Verstappen stop. Yeah, good stuff on Red Bull Mechanics. Lots of fists being punched there. There was a nice, tidy stop. The tyres came off, looked about the same as we saw on the pictures earlier. I think it was just plateaued, that blistering, but it was more or less okay. So that Ferrari coming out now. Where that's issues for Carlos Sainz and losing power. Not going to help the time catch Ollie Vernon. There's the race leader, gap of 19 seconds to Max Verstappen. Hamilton now fits from 4th place for Ferrari. Let's watch this not being the tyres off, tyres on. That's the favourite strategy by the teams here. And if we get out ahead of George Russell, that would be quite the achievement, even with a 2.1 second stop. But they're harrying down the main straight. Goes George Russell. So he's going to come out behind him despite extending that stint. And he's also got Ocon and he's got Stroll in between the two cars. Yeah, so would you rather be in the closing stages on a used set of softs or a quite used but set of hard combat? The soft weren't asked in that long because the fuel has gone down by then, but appears to be what McLaren are looking at. This just pretends out of Norris' seat then. Here comes Kimi Antonelli, round the outside of the Kevin Grombeck. On Kimi, give it some. And he has, up into 10th place. Nice. From Kimi Antonelli gets the move done on Pierre Gasly, who extended his contract with Alpine this week to take his association with the team through to the end of 2028. Kimi Antonelli still waiting on a contract decision for 2026, and he's up in the 10th place and back in the points. Fastest man on the track is Max Verstappen on the hard compound tyre, and he was about 2 tenths faster than Lando Norris on the previous lap, and at about the same time as Oscar Piastri. In fact, so about a second faster than Oscar Piastri, and 1.2 seconds faster than Lando Norris. When you're inside the car, it looks, because the eye and the human brain is so incredible. They're jumping on stop. That's so on. Might have been into his stop, into his block there, but so with human eye brain dial some in his some of it is still, your picture you're looking at is quite disturbed when you're driving along a bumpy decent track, but it's not as bad as it looks then. That's Sainz getting up closer to Ollie Vernon, but also that's right for tail of Pierre Gasly, but the positions exchange in that first chicane. Here comes Carlos Sainz for another stab at it through the curve at Ronda. Is he going to go around the outside? No, he's going down the inside yet because Behrman had him covered off to the left-hand side. But now a little rectangle. There was the outside line. He was trying to take into the second chicane. The two cars come together. But are almost left stricken in the middle of the road for a moment as Isaac Hadja moves past them. Oh, but that was unfortunate. And for the second race running, it's Carlos Sainz getting involved and coming a cropper with another car was trying to make an overtake. What did you make of that passing?
And I see again. I think Oliver probably should have got out about one, but let's see it again and see if Sainz left him. Carlos Sainz left in racing room on the inside.
We shall see. Albon, but Lewis Hamilton, Lance Stroll, the car in front of him. Stroll hasn't picked it yet. Under is on top. Currently in 7th. There's Albon who's running in 4th. Matter of the top 10, and Hamilton makes that progression very nicely indeed, and he's up into 8th place. He's got some overtaking done today. Has Lewis Hamilton up starting 10th, and it's Gabriel Bortoletto. Rather than look against Pierre Gasly on the previous lap.
We have 2 stops left in this strategy, 2 more stops planned.
Through DRS is good. If you get a good exit, because you've got much better tyres off Parabonica, that really helps your straight line speed massively, which is why you're seeing them suddenly, now they're on different tyre life, breezing fast. All right, you get to have a look at this one again. They split note to 5 race control. Sainz is ahead, and then gets tagged by Behrman. It's his corner. It was his corner, but he didn't leave racing room on the inside. I think that I'm going to put that down as a racing incident. Hey, this time they've got the penalty like a back. That's a fair comment, yeah, which is Ollie Behrman's assessment of the situation. And he does, he turns into the corner, but Behrman has nowhere to go. The Sainz, it looked like he was far enough ahead to find that the corner's his. It wasn't, but he wasn't entirely ahead. But he said here, yes, got to be right. He more than claimed that his front axle was beyond Behrman's front axle, but he hadn't cleared him, and I think he needed to leave him a bit of space on the inside. Hamilton gets up, it's in 6th place. That one, it's almost as easy as the last one on the previous lap. As I say, Hamilton on fresh tyres, and the 2 that he's sprayed have yet to stop in the race. Alex Albon has now stopped, so Hamilton will be up into just 6th place. I'm with you about it. It looked racing incident. Needs to be that. The trouble for both of them is this just relegated them down, and the stewards are going to have a look at Carlos Sainz for causing a collision. There is Lando Norris, our race. You know, the gap between himself and Oscar Piastri is 4 seconds. So Piastri's just closed in on his teammate in the last few laps. And the gap to Max Verstappen and from Lando Norris is 13.5 seconds. And Verstappen really is closing in at about a second of a lap. After these subcompound tyres going to need to be mighty on line. They just, you lose about 23, 24 seconds in the pit stop. If they were to pit now, the McLaren drivers would need to make up to Travis 10 seconds in their final stints if they're going to overtake Max. And Max has a safety car pit stop covered as well, because it takes 14 seconds to do a pit stop under a safety car or a virtual safety car. So, yeah, I mean, had that incident between Sainz and Behrman ended up in a safety car, I mean, it would have been very close, but now Verstappen is safe to the McLarens under a safety car stop. So that's all worked out. Oh, look, good point, Ted, very good point. So they might as well bring the McLarens in. I mean, no, I think Seb saying even this McLaren had the benefit of a safety car, Verstappen which still have been needing. So, well, do you bring them in now then? Because that safety car looks like it. I don't know. He's going to stay out again. The safety car win though is in Verstappen's favour. Yeah, I'm out to see whether they think the tyres are still okay. Yesterday just took 6 tenths out of Norris on that. So Norris is not enjoying this phase of his tyre life, and you can see it's wagging its tail under traction. Rear tyres complaining. And keep on. Team Lando will be thinking they've got to do something to actually protect second place here. Yes, which might be what prompts Lando to come in sooner rather than later. But on the last lap, 1.6 seconds faster than Lando Norris. And Lando's side of the carriage will get first option, but they choose not to take it. I'm sure Oscar started the gap friction, then take the honey brown in and start. Piastri has a big enough gap that soon Charles Leclerc is going to be running in fourth. So it's all about McLaren going to lose 2 at 3, repeat 2 at P3, unless something goes wrong at the pit stop. So that's why they decided to instead they did try something a little bit different. They got nothing to lose. Alex Albon on Kimi Antonelli into the first chicane. Antonelli survived on this particular occasion, but has Albon got a traction coming out of that chicane? Well, he did. And then actually moved over. I don't know if there was contact made or not, but Albon certainly got one into the grass. And now he's having a go into the second chicane. Norris powers his way over the line. Alex Albon, in his very good Franks, powers his way into ninth place.
It was will claim what they covered Williams down the next straight, wasn't it? Having been on the glass at one point. But
so much the gap now, 3.7.
So actually Lando just done a personal best there.
Now, but you need to put them in one welcome. But the reason they can't just carry on to the end, you might think, well, you're in the lead. Don't stop at all. And if needs stop, the tyres, they can't do by the regulation. If it's an entirely dry race, you might use 2 different tyre compounds. That is why McLaren are obliged to not quote big cars. And that's the Cunier's close in the rear of Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes. This is a team riding on board with Alex Albon when we first saw it. So if on those medium tyres, fresher medium tyres, he manages to get through. And there's the traction element. And then you've got the same donkeys behind Lando. We will thought the Schneidbox to the sub tyre, and I'll come up one. Do you want to talk to the car soon? Yeah, we'll do that. We'll shop it round to down. Well, only if he does undercut. Otherwise, on boxers, there will be no undercut. Yeah, that they can't control from the pit wall as they try and keep it fair. And then Norris does that and carry on his way as Oscar Piastri comes into the pits. And what we're receiving is going to be a set of soft compound tyres and see if they can, well, give the McLaren cars a bit more pace to these sprinting stages that they haven't had in a battle with Max Verstappen so far. So I can only assume Nando thinks the other one first.
I'm having to get in front of me. So look at that stop, 1.9 seconds.
Because he thinks the stop time might fade a little bit towards the end or something, because he's giving up a lap of extra grip there. But a very clear thought process going on. And that then, so it's to allow Piastri to defend then against Leclerc, isn't it? Is why they've done it. It is why Lando has been very generous on that, and I'm sure the team will talk to you about it. But that made sure Piastri stays ahead of Charlie Leclerc. So Kimi Antonelli's been spotted by race control. Then it's difficult to see that a trailer off the track as Alex Albon got through. I'm not sure that will be investigated much by the stewards. And our race leader is going to be coming into the pits at the end of this lap, which will allow Max Verstappen to take what today has been his rightful place out in front. Very much his rightful place. He's controlled it superbly well. Ollie Behrman has got a 10-second side penalty for causing a collision with Sainz. Yeah. So the stewards did think he's racing into it. They did think he was Carlos Sainz's corner. What's been on here is going on here. Lando Norris seems to be stationary. Well, he was by 30 more seconds than Oscar Piastri. I mean, I don't know if he did wrong. Well, that's going to be very difficult if Oscar Piastri, by the time he gets to the pit lane exit,
to the car this way around, I mean, you sure you have a look at you on free with Lando. Not too bad. So
everybody's not ahead at the pit exit. Look at that. Oscar Piastri is ahead of Lando Norris, who was stationary for 10 more seconds in the pit stop. And how the McLaren now swap this one around. And it's Oscar, well, yes, got my hair in for Lando's pit stop. We're about to see that. Might have gone a little bit no. Yeah, they both signed up properly. That was the confusion. And so the mechanic was told that Germany going to go get that signed a bit more. Oh dear. That must have felt like 30 seconds. Yeah, go on there though, Doris. We got some green reverse going on there now about handing places back, or is that just in run of the green as far as the team are concerned? But so this is now Oscar Piastri extending his lead in the championship to Lando Norris. Had a great chat with him, just sitting at the McLaren motorhome. Excuse me, in Zandvoort.
when he made it quite clear, Oscar, that as much as he wants to win this World Championship, as much as he will do everything he can to win this World Championship, he's not going to do anything to go against the team. As he says, in the future, I will need this team and I will need their help. So what they ask him to do, I will comply with. Hence yesterday, giving Lando Norris the tone to help him in their qualifying and to get him through to Q3. But that is what has been rather improbable.
You've done all of the hard work, so they should push us out at risk.
Filmers, look for us. So Melbourne, I'll put you under Oscar Piastri's crash helmet and back in race days here. If they ask him stuff around, what do you do? You should, because Lando is under a bit of a 1.9 second stop, I believe. But he's played the team game to help Oscar defend against Leclerc. And I think the team will feel extremely guilty about that, allowing that pit stop to happen in reverse positions, and then putting Norris behind them through. We'll see what they do. Lando set the fastest lap of the race, which, by the way, was less than a tenth of a second quicker on that lap than Max Verstappen, who's got an 18.5-second lead. Now Lando is catching, and has been catching on this lap. This is a bit like Hungary last year. We put it in this order. The theory is he's let Lando pass, and you're free to race. And mid, we said a bit of soap itself was part of racing. So part of the jet was strange too. But he really went to do with out of fair play. But I'll skip the Aston on that one. He set his pace, he made his point, and he did what the team asked him to do. Yeah, I think that's actually, I think that's fair. You know, Lando played the team game and didn't get the 1.9 second stop, but now they're free to race. Yeah. So at least he's put Oscar into position for a race, which he was about 3.4 seconds behind before the pit stop phase. Yeah, I was going to say, he's a lot of points after the pit stops if he does want to have a race here. And neither of the McLaren posted up to Max Verstappen, who's been told take their risks and bring this car home, and that's pretty much what he's doing. So it's the championship that
You're free to race. Clinically clear head, mate.
And Oscar Piastri now has DRS on his teammates as well. So within all of that, at least it put him in position to have a race with Norris, which he didn't have beforehand. Takes that, and he's got a clear mind and a clear conscience as well. If there was any doubt about that one to go and the race, he's not within a second, I don't think, going through. Oh no, he was going through the detection zone. It was right on the fringes, so he's got that slight advantage with the DRS. And the upshot is here, Oscar Piastri has got a chance here of getting second place. His teammate Lando Norris is under pressure. It was a very slow pit stop. That plug left. The wheel up wasn't tightened up properly enough. And this is not what Lando Norris obviously leads. Pressure off the back of Zandvoort when have the oil leak, the oil pipe that ruptured somewhat, and that caused him to retire from the Grand Prix. Lance Scott finally pits, leaving Esteban Ocon as the only driver who hasn't made a pit stop in this race, and he's still got a 5-second penalty to serve when he does come in. The McLaren and the Will Smiths are no faster on these tyres than Max Verstappen.
No, he's hard compound tyres, so
it was worth a try because, why not? But they took me on to their problems today. Lance Stroll has tumbled down the order.
Norris and Piastri have swapped places with us.
It's because the other slowest on?
Buggies.
Sorry, I mean this, but I guess it keeps it fair between the drivers until the championship. You focus on the road ahead of the list. And now the debrief has already started. On the Jean-Pierre Lambiase and Max Verstappen podcast there. The better say Stroll's had a really long stop, and he's down in 18th now at last. History didn't get DRS on that screen. So middle sector, Lando Norris was about 3/10 faster. He used a bit of electrical energy there just to boost his way to what I think should be comparative safety from here on in. There's Max leading the Grand Prix comfortably at his side, and he's working up who's had a snow stop and what have you. Oh, someone's been off down there big time. Yeah. I just wonder, listening to Max Verstappen's comments, I wonder if he'd have complied
in that particular moment, well, they were, or he just said, all right, yeah, the show's nothing to do with me. It's every point's a personal turn to get out there and do what I can. But we're talking about 3 points, where Piastri went into the race for the 34-point championship lead. It wasn't just a slow stop, though. I agree. If it was just a slow stop, that's the way the cookie crumbles. But it was playing the team game that Lando was doing that in the end cost him. Absolutely. Max Verstappen started another lap. He's got 2 laps to go in this to become the first driver to win from pole at Monza since 2019. The last 5 pole sitters here have all failed to go win the race. Pole sitter today, when he got past Lando Norris for the second time, has never looked like conceding victory or anyone getting ahead faulted. The battle for second, 1.5 seconds between Norris and Piastri. Charles Leclerc is going to take the checkered flag. Fourth for Ferrari. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton completes in top 6 as it stands. Currently, Esteban Ocon is in the pits. He will tumble out of the points. Alex Albon, it was 5th in Zandvoort, is on course for except place finish here. Another great recovery from him. He started 14th after a disappointing qualifying. Kimi Antonelli will be at the points once again. Gabriel Bortoletto and Isaac Hadja has started in the pit lane. There's Charlie holding off Carlos Sainz for the 1 remaining point in this race. And all the while I've been saying that, and that's allowed back Verstappen to complete another 3.6 miles. And he's now starting his final lap, Martin, as he powers towards with another new lap record at what will be win number 66 in his career. As well for Las Vegas as well, because of a very similar aero setup there. So, and it's good for Red Bull. It definitely found a much better car than they for the high-speed, low-drag circuit of Monza, and McLaren's advantages of tyre degradation and high-speed quality didn't exist around here. But next door managed to get a second and a Fiat. Now Kelly Piquet has come to Monza to see how her partner gets on, and he's getting on very nicely. Kimi Antonelli has been given a 5-second penalty for driving erratically. That's going to cost him at least 1 place, if not 2, if not 3. It might take him out of the points in this race, which is not what he needs in his home race. If even though it was disappointed, that's going to be even worse for him. During the race, waiting to wave of the checkered flag from Max Verstappen, and traded with Zandvoort, ended a streak of 4 races without one. It was his worst since 2018. He's come to Monza. He has smashed the track record in qualifying with the fastest lap in F1 history, and he's got on to win the Italian Grand Prix rather than for a weekend. For Max Verstappen, a winner here at Monza this afternoon. He's won it a different way to their praise. Oscar Piastri going through the parabolic, tasting his teammate Lando Norris, who finishes second to Max Verstappen. Once again in 2025, where Max wins, rather Norris comes second, Oscar Piastri third, Charles Leclerc fourth for Ferrari. George Russell will come home to finish 5th of Lewis Hamilton, who recovered, starting 5th on the grid to take 6th place. It's another 5 finish from Alex Albon, who will make 7th.
So that's the Italian double. Fantastic, well done, mate.
Yes, that flip. That is unbelievable, guys.